All right, Buffalo Bills fans, welcome to this episode of The Walkthrough. I am your host, Anthony Marino. Happy to be here with you once again, talking everything Buffalo Bills. And, we're part of the Overreaction Sports Network. Happy to be here with you once again, getting ready for a big Week 15 matchup with the New England Patriots. And we'll kind of talk through everything to get you ready for kickoff, 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. As you know, each and every episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. And let's take a look and see where they've got things for this game on Sunday. The Buffalo Bills still sitting as a 1.5-point favorite, the over-under at 49.5 points. And it's interesting because this was a big talking point throughout the week. If you were listening to Sal Capaccio on WGR, he was talking about various radio hits that he would do throughout the New England area this week. And really, Patriots fans, the media, I guess, kind of using this as a bit of a narrative to take this as a slight for them, currently being first in the AFC East, a 10-game winning streak and being 1.5-point underdogs. And, as I look at it, I get it, right? Any game that the Bills are underdogs, it's, that Sean McDermott and his staff are going to utilize that as an opportunity to get the team ready and have them focused and prepared, and the nobody believed in us narrative. But I look at this too, probably for the Patriots coming off the bye week, it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind. And for the Bills, a couple of impressive wins over the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals in these past 2 weeks. So, 1.5 points, it's a little bit of a coin flip in my imagination. But, it's one of those things, again, if it was the other way around and the Buffalo Bills were at home and they were an underdog at Highmark Stadium, I would probably think that Bills fans would say the same thing. So would Sean McDermott and anybody with a microphone and kind of an opportunity to talk to folks about it. So again, thanks to everybody at FanDuel for supporting the show. 1.5 points, the Buffalo Bills, the favorite, 49.5 points, the over-under. So let's talk about the injury report. That is usually where we start off each and every show. And at least for the most part, getting smaller, at least when it first came out this week, but certainly a few things for us to keep an eye on. First up, and we'll kind of expand on this later on in the show, Christian Benford. He was limited in practice on Thursday. He did not practice on Friday. He has got a toe injury, and his game status is listed as questionable. Certainly the biggest question mark for the Bills this weekend. Terrell Bernard was limited in practice each and every day this week with his elbow injury, also listed as questionable there. I'm not too optimistic about him playing, but we will certainly wait and see until the inactives come out just before game time on Sunday. Cole Bishop listed with a calf. He was a full participant all 3 days of practice this week. No game status there. Joey Bosa, a real positive for the Bills now. He was limited on Wednesday and Thursday. Full practice participant on Friday. No game day status or designation for him. We'll be curious to see what kind of snap count he has, if they kind of ease him back into things, or if it's just kind of a full workload for him on Sunday. Another positive for the Bills, Spencer Brown, limited on both Wednesday and Thursday. A full practice participant on Friday. No game day status for him. Will be good to have the Buffalo Bills right tackle back against the Patriots. Dalton Kincaid, with his knee, kind of nothing to see there, a full participant all 3 days. They eased him back in against the Bengals last weekend. We'll be curious to see again what his workload looks like. Dawson Knox, he did not practice on Wednesday for personal reasons. I think the reports were that he and his wife welcomed a new baby to the family. So certainly an important reason to miss practice, but he was full on Thursday and Friday. Joshua Palmer, kind of this continues with his ankle. Limited all 3 days of practice, listed as questionable. Again, one of those kind of like Terrell Bernard. I will be surprised if he ends up suiting up on Sunday. And finally, Mitchell Trubisky, he was out sick on Thursday, but he did have a full practice on Friday. no game status for the Buffalo Bills backup quarterback. So, you go through all of this, certainly some injuries that we want to touch base on. It seems like a shorter list than what it's been the last couple of weeks. But when you've got names like, Christian Benford on there topping things off, certainly some question marks for the Bills, and we'll see what that looks like heading into Sunday. Now, as we do move through, you guys know that each and every week the show is brought to you by our friends at Anchor Bar. Make sure you visit anchorbar.com to see all the locations and info for online ordering. So, this is the original Buffalo chicken wing, and it's the place that you can watch all the Buffalo Bills games. So, hey, if you're not traveling to Gillette Stadium this weekend, you need a place to watch the game, maybe Anchor Bar is the right spot for you. Their wings are fresh, they're never frozen, high quality, and they've got 24 different sauces and rubs that you can choose from. In addition, if you're not feeling like wings, you can go to Anchor Bar and you can get a different variety, all kinds of things, appetizers, boneless wings, tenders, pizza, beef on wick, burgers, sandwiches, you name it, they got you covered. And make sure you visit anchorbar.com to find out all the information on, one, how you can order online, but two, for all of their locations that they have. And they have new locations now in Tucson, Arizona, Frisco, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, and my weekly plug for them to add a location here in Albany, New York. So big thanks to everybody at Anchor Bar for the support there. And one quick thanks to all of you. We did the jersey raffle just a couple of weeks ago to benefit the Alzheimer's Association. Bills Mafia stepped up big, helped us raise almost $2,000 for that jersey raffle. And, it's one of those things we will continue to do throughout the year in support of the Alzheimer's Association. So I just always appreciate you guys stepping up in each and every way. So just a heartfelt thank you from me to you for always being so kind of engaged and charitable with the different initiatives that we have. So, all right, listen, let's talk a little bit more about this game, and let's talk about Christian Benford. I don't know what to make of this. And, you check in with Kyle Trimble from Banged Up Bills, and he's given reports on his weekly hit that he does with Joe Marino. You talk about this, and there's not enough information to be able to tell what's taking place. You got guys taking screenshots of the, to call it a boot is inaccurate because it's not as big as a boot. I think Jeremy White on WGR was calling it a slipper, that he was wearing kind of a therapeutic piece to protect the foot. And really just talking about that toe, we have no idea. Is it the big toe? Which one is it? And what does that look like? And my gosh, over the past 48 hours, so much conversation around Christian Benford, and rightfully so, because he's been so critically important to the Bills and their defense over these past 2 weeks with the victories over the Steelers and the Bengals. So, the fact that he did not practice on Friday, although he was not seen wearing the boot / slipper or whatever, just wearing normal sneakers out on the practice field, makes me think that this is like a 50-50 shot. And with the questionable tag, you can look at that. You can say, listen, if he's not close to 100%, let's not risk it. There might be some weather out in New England this weekend for the game. But I'm really curious to see, and a lot of times a DNP on Friday, you think to yourself, like, okay, there's no chance that this guy is going to play on Sunday. And again, that very well may be the case. But with this, it seems a little bit different because he was, practicing on Thursday, whatever it is that took place. But then him not wearing the boot / slipper on Friday, at least from what was caught by the media, makes me think there's a chance. And this is something that is certainly more precautionary than anything else. We saw that kind of last week with AJ Epinesa. All of a sudden, he's in street clothes for a game. He did not practice, and then everything was fine there. So hopefully this is just an abundance of caution, but we will find out certainly when those inactives come out on Sunday. I mean, I'm always kind of anxious when those come out because there's usually 1 or 2 players with a questionable tag that you are waiting to see what happens or just to get an idea of, what the team is doing at wide receiver. But this will probably be the most anticipated one of the year for the team. When, Christian Benford, again, the way he has been playing 2 weeks ago, the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, probably should have won the award again last week for his performance against the Bengals, and critically important to just sort of any kind of success that the Buffalo Bills defense has. Now, as we talk about this too, my question, right, and Christian Benford, he couldn't win Defensive Player of the Week because Josh Allen won AFC Offensive Player of the Week. And I guess there's some sort of rule that the same team can't have multiple players of the week. And shout out to Joe Marino on Locked On Bills, who shared that information. I think maybe it was on yesterday's show. But is this going to be another Josh Allen game? And when I say another Josh Allen game, I mean that in like the best way possible. And, you think of how the team has performed in the games against marquee quarterbacks. And I get it. Like our buddy Bruce Nolan, I could hear him in my ears right now. Wins are not a quarterback stat. Like the quarterbacks, of course, they're not playing against each other. Josh Allen, Drake May, they don't play defense, none of that. But the best games that Josh Allen has had this season have been when he's matched up against Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, to a lesser extent, I'll throw Aaron Rodgers in there, kind of what the game narrative was against the Steelers. But Josh seems to rise to the occasion, or at least the offense seems to rise to the occasion when you're going against these marquee quarterbacks. And I get that part, right? Because there's going to be probably more of a game script, more of an expectation of, we're not going to be able to hold Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense down for long. So we're going to have to make sure that we do our part and be really aggressive on offense. Same thing when it comes to playing against the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, and Baker Mayfield, for where they were at the time in the season. And, of course, against Lamar Jackson in week 1. So now, the narrative is out there. You hear these different things. And credit to Josh Allen and Drake May. They're saying all the right things. I like Drake May, right? Like he's not one of those guys, at least at this early phase in his career, regardless of what happens on the field, he plays the right way, carries himself the right way. It's like, gosh, it would be so much easier if you just were this hateable type of personality. But he's not. And these two guys are saying the right things, kind of passing kudos back and forth to each other. But right now, when you talk about it this season, some of that national narrative, is the door closing for the Buffalo Bills? Has the torch passed with the New England Patriots being the likely AFC East winner this year? Drake May in the conversation is one of the two favorites for the MVP with Matthew Stafford. Josh Allen kind of working himself back into that conversation now. We can say, Josh isn't on social media or any of these pieces. Josh seems to know everything that's on social media, though. Right? You'll see the little things, even going back to last season and the whole whatever emoji meme that the Dolphins, had used on their social media heading into that matchup with the Bills. And then Josh scores a rushing touchdown and you see him kind of put the pointer finger to his face. And, with some of those things, it's like, okay, how else would he know to do that in his touchdown celebration if someone was not feeding this information to him, or if he didn't have some burner account out there that was just checking in on things? So I am sure that he is hearing all of the chatter, right, since this week 5 matchup of Drake May being the second coming of Josh Allen, Drake May being, in the MVP conversation. And that week 5 matchup was not a good one for the Buffalo Bills in any way, shape, or form. And credit to the Patriots, like they came into Buffalo and they won the game. That's that. But I think when you look at this, and again, combine it with how the Bills seem to perform in December over these past 5 years, whatever it is, where things they step up as a team throughout the latter third of the season, and Josh just having a little bit of that extra when it comes to playing those top quarterbacks. And now Drake May is in the conversation of being one of those top quarterbacks. So, right, think of, the legendary Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend. I think for Josh Allen, it's going to be one of those games on Sunday. How the weather plays out and things like that, we will see. But that hasn't really slowed him down in the past. Key example just last week against the Bengals as the team got things going and the offense delivering down the stretch. So that is my take on this, and I do think it will be another good performance, to say the least, from Josh Allen on Sunday afternoon at Gillette Stadium. So let's just talk about this game as a whole. I got my notes here each and every week, kind of just jot down, have a cup of coffee, think about, what's top of mind for me. And I wrote down the question, is this a big game? And initially my reaction has been like, it's not. And I say that not, every game in the NFL is a big game. So like don't take that out of context. But the Patriots, the position that they are in to win the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills have to win out for the rest of the season. And then you need either the Jets or the Dolphins to beat the Patriots for the Bills to win the AFC East. I'm not saying that it can't happen. I think there's like an 11% chance, at least from the odds, that the Bills can still win the AFC East. That's fine. Like that's, 11% is better than nothing. But as I look at this game, it's not one of those like, okay, the Bills just need to make the playoffs in a good position to do that, the way their schedule plays out the rest of the way. This is not one of those of just like, oh my gosh, the Bills have to win this game. Like it's different than that, at least for Bills fans. And, it's a little bit easier to say when you're the team sitting in second place and, reaching first place in the AFC East seems a little unattainable. You get that part. Certainly feels like a big game, I think, if you're a Patriots fan, if you're individuals that cover the Patriots, because it's what they call the hat and T-shirt game, right? They win this game, they win the AFC East. Somewhere adjacent to their locker room right now, before this game, are a box of the hats that they're going to win, that have their logo and say 2025 AFC East champions, and the T-shirts that they will have that say 2025 AFC East champions. And it's weird because you think to the Patriots and how the team and the fans have tormented not just fans of the Buffalo Bills, but the entire AFC East, right, for the entire Tom Brady era. Then they basically have like what, 4 down years? Like, I mean, what was it, 4 years ago that maybe Mac Jones, still had them in the playoffs, and there were some expectations around the team. So, excuse me if I don't feel bad for my friends that are Patriots fans that, talk about how difficult these past few years are. And my buddies out there that are Pats fans, like, we've gone back and forth on this. So no tears are being shed. So again, as you look at this, it doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal at first. And then you take a step back and you look at this game, and it's just like, okay, if the Patriots are going to win the AFC East, that's fine. Like, again, credit to them. They've won the games they've needed to. The Bills, you drop games to the Dolphins, the Texans with Davis Mills, the Atlanta Falcons. Like, that's on the Bills. Like, there's no part of that. But if they're going to win the AFC East, it's like, yeah, I don't want it to be against us. Let it be a couple weeks down the road. Maybe something else happens. Maybe they beat the Dolphins and Jets. Maybe the Bills drop another game to the Eagles or something like that. It takes place, and it's just, yeah. But don't let it happen where it's just like, all right, we came to your place, you beat us, we're seeing your fans celebrating and all these things. Like, to me, like Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. Like, if you win it, kudos to you. That part is fine, but not on Sunday. Not on Sunday. And I think kind of that reminder just a little bit, and it's weird because the Patriots have always been the big brother and the Bills have been the little brother. Well, over the past 5 years, that has shifted. And for the Bills, it might be a little bit of this, like, hey, you guys are doing great. You're having a great season. But let us just give you a little bit of a reminder, right, what this team can do, what the Buffalo Bills offense is capable of doing. When you've got Josh Allen, quarterback, James Cook, a healthy Dalton Kincaid, guys coming back on defense. When you look at Joey Bosa, what he's able to do. Hopefully you'll have Christian Benford on Sunday, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of that reminder. Like, we said before, the Patriots taking umbrage with being a 1.5 point underdog. Well, I'm guessing that Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills taking a little umbrage of, like, folks kind of kicking dirt on the grave right now. And, last time I checked, we're sitting here at 9-4, and we're a pretty good football team too. So this is going to be a fun one. Well, earlier, like I said, kind of downplaying this a little weak. Like, no, I'm not going to downplay this matchup. Like, it's Bills Patriots. Like, let's just put it back out there and have that kind of reminder that the Buffalo Bills are still one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. However they get into the playoffs, I don't care. I don't care what it looks like. I mean, heck, you win the AFC East these past 5 years. That's fine and good, and that's great. But you haven't gotten to that next step of making to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. So Maybe it's going to be a little bit of an unconventional path this year. I don't care what it is. Like, just get in, do what you have to do, and let's see what happens. And all the time, as long as number 17 is behind center, I like our chances. And like I said, I'm expecting to have a great game from Josh Allen on Sunday. That's no disrespect to the Patriots defense and who they are and the team that they are. But like I said, I just find it where he continues to step up when he is playing against some of those marquee quarterbacks. And Drake May's in that conversation now. So let's see what can take place. So as we talked about, went through the injuries. Let's keep an eye on the inactives on Sunday to see what's going on with Christian Benford. I would love to see him out there, but also, as we're talking about before, no need to rush him back into playing to have a longer-term injury that can linger. I think the key for the Buffalo Bills being healthy in the playoffs, once you get to that point. So, but we will certainly see what happens with Christian Benford. And listen, another thing I need you guys to do, one, hit me with a Go Bills in the comment section. I'll hit you back. It's always great. It helps more and more fans find us here at the Overreaction Sports Network. Make sure you comment, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, not just here on YouTube, but wherever you get your podcast, because then you get the walkthrough every week, but you get all of our great shows with John Fina, Jerry Ostrowski, Joe Miller, Sig Fracassi, Dan Freddy. We got you covered all throughout the week. Great shows each and every day. And, we just want to chat with all of you. So when you do those things, that helps us to reach more Bills fans. It helps us to kind of expand. And I don't know, the more conversations we have here, I think the better, because we love this team. We love where they're going and love hanging out with each and every one of you every week. So, all right, listen, it's time for me to wrap up. I think we've gone for enough here today. So looking forward to Sunday's matchup. Hope you enjoy it. Go Bills, and I'll see you all next week. Take care.